I'm Jaime Rice, and we are here at Lost Acres Farm in Frankfort, Kentucky, and I'd like to talk to you today about cucurbits. So, that is the family of plants like pumpkins, melons, squash, cucumbers, and anybody who has about 5 square feet and has a desire to grow something, even in their backyard, they can plant these and they're a lot of fun. They are pretty inexpensive to grow as well. You might even have a cucumber or a pumpkin or a squash or something that you've gotten at the store. You can save the seeds and plant those. So they're really easy to grow. Just takes a little bit of maintenance and watch care to keep them being healthy. You can start them indoors in a pot before you put them outside. That way they get a little bit of a jump start on the year, and you can transplant them after the frost safely. They need lots of sun and lots of space, so make sure that you have that 5 square feet or a trellis your back. If you have a backyard, your fence in the backyard. So it's definitely a balance with these cucurbits because they like nitrogen rich soil. But the thing is, the things that like to eat those also like to live in nitrogen rich soil. So, because they need room to grow or a trellis, there's going to be some work involved in maintaining the area around them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the insects that love these cucurbits, because that will help you to have fun with this as opposed to being overwhelmed when you look outside one day and it looks like your pumpkin is no longer living. um, so prevention is key, but it's not always possible, right? I would say I'm going to use a pumpkin as an example because that's what I have here today that I've transplanted. Visit your pumpkin every day. Take a look around and see what's going on with your pumpkin. Look for signs like wilted leaves, tiny little bronze little circles that are little eggs on the bottom of the leaves. Check the bottom of the leaves and you might find some of the things that like them. Gently remove any of the leaves or things that are damaged, but if it looks like the plant is just infested, pull the whole thing up and throw it away. Don't try to compost it. I know we love to compost and we want everything to be reused, but that's not a good idea because you're just saving that for next year. So throw it away. I'm going to mention several bugs that are loving our pumpkins and our cucurbits that we don't like so much. And one of them is called a vine borer or a squash borer. You'll know probably that you've got a problem if you hear a really loud buzzing and there's a thing flying around that sort of looks like a wasp but kind of like a fly but not really either one, and you're wondering what's he doing, and he lights on things but he's not really pollinating anything, he's just hanging out. So that's a really big sign that you've probably got some squash borers. The other thing is, if you check your pumpkin each day, you might see some like sawdust looking stuff at the very base of your pumpkin, or you might even see a hole. So you've probably got these vine borers. They are white with a little brown, it almost looks like a big eyeball on the top of their head, and they just bore their way through the vines. And you'll go out one day and your pumpkin looks so happy and beautiful, and the next day it's completely wilted. And it's like, what happened? I took so good care of it. And it's probably a squash borer. You can try to perform surgery. I tried to do that. It didn't work. You can slit the vine and find the borer and then cover that up with soil. If you've got several and you want to try it, I think it's worth a try. It was not a success for me last year. One of the other things that is a predator is a cucumber beetle. Some of them are striped and some of them are spotted. They're yellow and they look friendly, kind of like yellow oval ladybugs, but they're not friendly. We don't like them. You will notice holes in your leaves and you're thinking, what is munching on these things? If your plant is blooming, they love the color yellow. Look inside the blossom and you will probably find 10, 15, 20, who knows how many of these things. The good thing about them is if you catch them early, they're easy to kill. soap and water, and they die. You can also squish them with your fingers if you don't have an infestation. But again, I would suggest if you have an infestation, just chalk it up to, well, I tried, and get rid of it, because it could ruin other of your plants that you have, and you don't want to do that. So we've talked about things that you can put out to catch them. A yellow bowl. They love the color yellow. And you can set that underneath your pumpkin with water and a little bit of dish liquid, and go out in the morning and you'll find them floating in there, and they're dead. I know we want compassion for creation, but some things I think were created during the fall of man, and they're just trouble. So we want to get rid of them. So if you find, though, that you're catching some good bugs like ladybugs, then you might want to think about another approach. The last predator I guess I would want to talk about is something called squash bugs. So they are the ones that lay the little eggs, little bronze eggs on the bottom of your leaves. And I think the eggs are actually kind of pretty. They look like jewels to me, but they're awful. You will look on the bottom of your leaves and you'll see these little bitty brown, almost bronze shimmery kind of eggs. It's easy to scrape those off. You can take a butter knife or even your fingernail if you're not grossed out by it, and just scrape them off into a cup with soap and water. I would say that just like with the other things, if you look under your leaves and you're like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere, chalk it up, live and learn, and just, throw it away, because you don't want them to move from your pumpkins to your cucumbers into your squash, and then you end up losing everything. Once they get older, the nymphs, I think they look like little army men. There's like 10, 15, 20 of these little white things with little black legs, and they're all over the bottom of your leaves, and they're hiding. Maybe she won't see us. When they get older, they kind of look like stink bugs, but they're not. So stink bugs will eat your beans, though. They're not completely innocent, but just know that there is a difference. And with these are the ones that if you put cardboard or a board underneath your pumpkin vines and come out early in the morning, a lot of times they're hanging out there, and you can just smash them and take care of them and get rid of them. So as I said earlier, some suggestions would be to start indoors early, because if you get a little bit of a jump start on the year, then hopefully you beat the insects to the punch, and your plant is mature enough that it can withstand some of the munching that goes on. I know the first year that we had pumpkins here, we had huge pumpkins. They were like 70 pounds, and I know that we had some insect problems, but because we got them early, the pumpkins were strong enough to thrive, and they did very well. I would say try not to get overwhelmed, and experiment and see what works best for you. So a little bit of a recap of our cucurbit. They are fun to grow, right? Think of a pumpkin. You can eat it. You can eat the seeds. It's a family fun thing. You can decorate them. You can save the seeds and plant till next year. You don't have to have a lot of space, 5 square feet probably, and you can let them grow on your fence. But be wary that you need to try to prevent some problems and look at your plant every single day. Don't get overwhelmed. If it becomes that you feel like you're constantly fighting the pests, chalk it up to experience. That's my advice. Please come see us at Lost Acres. Thanks.